The most common name in the English-speaking world is not English. It is Hebrew. Every John who ever lived, every Johnny, every Jack, every Jackson is carrying a 3,000-year-old Hebrew name, and almost none of them know it. The name John comes from the Hebrew Yohanan, and when Spanish Jews said it, it became Juan. When Italian Jews said it, it became Giovanni. When Russian Jews said it, it became Ivan. When the Irish said it, it became Sean. They're all the same name, Yohanan, a name spoken in Jerusalem before there was a London, a Paris, or a Moscow. And here's what almost nobody realizes. This is not a story about one name. It is a story of dozens of the most ordinary names you hear every single day. Mary, James, Michael, Elizabeth, Anne. Names so common they feel invisible. Names you would swear are English or Irish or Italian, and every one of them is a Hebrew name in disguise, carried out of the ancient land of Israel, translated through Greek and Latin, scattered across 2,000 years of exile, and handed to you by parents who had no idea what they were really saying. Today we are going through the first names that secretly reveal Hebrew and Jewish roots, and by the end, the odds are very good that your name or the name of someone you love is on this list. So pay attention, because once you hear what your name actually means, you will never hear it the same way again. Let's begin. Mary and every Maria, Marie, and Molly. We start with the most popular girl's name in the history of the Western world, Mary. For centuries, it was the single most common female name in Europe and the Americas, given out of devotion to the mother of Jesus. But Mary is not a Christian name in origin. It is the Hebrew name Miriam, the name of the sister of Moses, the prophetess who watched over him in the reeds of the Nile and led the women of Israel in song after the parting of the sea. Miriam became Maria in Greek and Latin, then Marie in French, Maria in Spanish and Italian, and Mary in English. Even the nickname Molly traces back to it. Scholars have debated the meaning for centuries. Some say it carries the root for bitterness, a memory of the cruelty Israel suffered in Egypt, while others connect it to beloved or wished-for child. Every Mary, every Maria, every Marie, every Mia and Molly and Miriam, from Dublin to Mexico City, is carrying the name of a Hebrew prophetess who lived more than 3,000 years ago. And the spread is staggering. In the Arab world, the same Hebrew Miriam became Miriam, the most honored woman's name in the Quran. In Wales, it became Mair. In Poland, Maria. In Scotland, the affectionate Hairi. One Hebrew name, the sister of Moses, reborn in 100 languages, and most of the billions of people who have carried it never knew its origin lay in the reeds of the Nile. John and every Sean, Juan, Ivan, and Jack. Now back to the king of them all. John has been one of the most common male names in the Western world for over 1,000 years. 23 popes took it as their name, and it is pure Hebrew, Yoshanan, which means God is gracious or God has shown favor. The name belonged to John the Baptist. He was born to the priest Zechariah and to a mother named Elizabeth. Pay attention. This matters in a moment. When the name traveled, it transformed in every language it touched, but it never stopped being Yochanan underneath. Jack is John. Sean is John. Ian is John. Evan is John. Juan, Giovanni, Hans, John, Johann, Jovan. Every single one is the Hebrew Yoshanan wearing a local accent. If your name is any version of John, you are part of the largest family of names on earth, and the root of all of it is a Hebrew word for the grace of God. James and every Jacob, Jake, and Diego. Here's one that genuinely shocks people because the two names sound nothing alike. James and Jacob are the same name. Both come from the Hebrew Yaakov, Jacob the patriarch of the entire nation of Israel, the man who wrestled an angel and was renamed Israel, the father of the 12 tribes. Yaakov became Jacobus in Latin, which split into two branches. One stayed close to the original and became Jacob, while the other drifted through Latin and French and ended up as James. That is why 6 kings of England were named James, while the name on their own family Bibles traced back to a Hebrew shepherd. And it goes further. The Spanish turned Yaakov into Diego and Iago. So James, Jacob, Jake, Diego, Jamie, and Iago are all one name, the name of the father of Israel himself. And here's the irony that almost nobody catches. The most famous English Bible ever produced is the King James Version, commissioned by King James I of England in 1611. The book that shaped the entire English-speaking Protestant world is named after a Hebrew patriarch, Yaakov, and the very Bible it translates is the story of that patriarch's descendants. The name on the cover and the people in the pages come from the same Hebrew root. If you find these stories fascinating, make sure you subscribe to Bloodlines and Borders, because the next few names are ones you absolutely use every week. Elizabeth and every Lizbeth, Eliza, and Isabel. Remember the mother of John the Baptist? Her name was Elizabeth, and it is one of the most beautiful Hebrew names ever to enter the English language. It comes from the Hebrew Elisheva, meaning my God is an oath, or God is my abundance. In the Hebrew Bible, Elisheva was the wife of Aaron, the first high priest of Israel, which makes this a name from the very founding family of the Jewish priesthood. From Elisheva came Elizabeth, and from Elizabeth came an astonishing number of names people think are completely separate. Liz, Beth, Betty, Eliza, Elisa, Lisa, Libby, Lizzie, and even Isabel and Isabella, which are Spanish and Italian forms of the same Hebrew root. 2 queens of England named Elizabeth ruled an empire under a name that began in the priestly household of ancient Israel. If you are an Elizabeth in any of its forms, your name is an oath to God, spoken first in Hebrew. Anne and every Hannah, Nancy, and Anya. This one hides in plain sight, and the connection is gorgeous once you see it. The name Anne comes from the Hebrew Hannah, Chana, meaning grace or favor. Hannah in the Bible was the mother of the prophet Samuel, a woman who prayed so desperately for a child that the priest thought she was drunk, and whose prayer of thanksgiving became one of the most quoted passages in Scripture. Hannah became Anna in Greek and Latin, then Anne in English, Anya in Russian, Anita in Spanish, and even Nancy, which started as a pet form of Anne. So Hannah and Anne are not similar names. They are the exact same name, separated by translation. Notice something too. Hannah means grace, and Yoshanan, the Hebrew root of John, means God is gracious. The same Hebrew root for grace sits buried inside 2 of the most common names in the English language, one for women and one for men. And the name Anne carried enormous weight in its own right. In Christian tradition, Anne was believed to be the name of the mother of the Virgin Mary, making her the grandmother of Jesus, which is why the name spread through every royal house in Europe, from Anne Boleyn to Queen Anne of England to Anne, Princess Royal today. A Hebrew word for grace, worn by queens for 1,000 years. Michael, and every Mike, Mitchell, and Miguel. Michael is one of the most popular boys' names of the last century, and it is a Hebrew sentence, first compressed into 2 syllables. Mikael is a rhetorical question. Who is like God? The implied answer is that no one is. In the Bible, Michael is not a man but an archangel, the warrior angel who defends Israel and stands guard at the throne of heaven, named 3 times in the book of Daniel. Every Mike, every Mitch and Mitchell, every Miguel and Michelle and Mikhail and Mihail carries that ancient Hebrew challenge. Who is like God? It is one of the few names on this list that is literally a complete thought in Hebrew, a question that has been asked in one accent or another for 3,000 years. We are halfway through, and the names are about to get even more familiar. If you find these stories fascinating, make sure you subscribe to Bloodlines and Borders, Joshua, and the name hidden inside Jesus. This is the one that stops people cold. Joshua comes from the Hebrew Yehoshua, meaning God is salvation, the name of the warrior who led Israel into the promised land after Moses died. Over the centuries, Hebrew speakers shortened Yehoshua to Yeshua, and Yeshua passed through Greek as Jesus and then Latin as Jesus is the name we say in English as Jesus. As Jesus. Read that again. Joshua and Jesus are the same Hebrew name. The most spoken name in all of Christianity is a Hebrew name, Yeshua, the name of a first-century Jewish man from Galilee, identical in root to the Joshua who blew the trumpets at Jericho. Every Josh on earth shares a name with the central figure of the Western world, and both of them lead straight back to ancient Hebrew. There is no name that better proves the point of this entire video. Joseph and every Joe, Jose and Giuseppe. Joseph is Yosef in Hebrew, meaning he will add or God will increase. In the Bible, Joseph is the favored son, sold into slavery by his brothers, who rises to rule Egypt. It is one of the greatest stories ever told, with the coat of many colors, the dreams, the famine, and the reunion. The name spread everywhere. Joe, Joey, Jose, Giuseppe, Joseph, Yusuf. When Jewish families lived in Spain, their Yosefs became Joses. In Italy, Giuseppes. In the Arab world, the same Hebrew name became Yusuf. If your name is Joseph in any form, you carry the name of the dreamer who saved two nations from starvation, a name first spoken in Hebrew thousands of years before it reached your birth certificate. And consider how far it traveled. The same Yosef became Joseph in Poland, Yosef in Russia, Yusuf across the Islamic world from Morocco to Indonesia, and Giuseppe in every corner of Italy. It is one of the few names carried with equal honor by Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. 3 faiths, 1 Hebrew patriarch, 1 name. Daniel and every Dan and Danny. Daniel barely even disguises itself, which is part of its power. It is Hebrew almost unchanged, Daniel, meaning God is my judge. In the Bible, Daniel is the young Israelite carried off to Babylon who refuses to abandon his faith. He is thrown into the lion's den and walks out untouched, and he interprets the writing on the wall as an empire collapses around him. The name has stayed remarkably stable across every language because it was never really translated, only pronounced with different accents. Daniel, Daniar, Danilo, Danny. Every Dan and Danny is carrying a Hebrew declaration of faith that the final judge is God alone, straight out of the royal court of Babylon. David, the name of a king. David needs almost no disguise either, and it may be the most quietly powerful name on this list. It is Hebrew for beloved. David was the shepherd boy who killed Goliath with a sling, the poet who wrote the Psalms, and the greatest king in the history of Israel, the founder of a royal line that Jews, Christians, and Muslims all hold sacred. The Star of David is named for him. The name has barely changed in 3,000 years. A David in modern London is pronouncing it almost exactly the way it was pronounced in ancient Jerusalem. From it come Dave, Davy, Davide, and the surnames Davis and Davison, son of David. When you call someone David, you are calling them beloved in the language of the Psalms. And the name carries a political weight that has never faded. For 3,000 years, Jewish tradition has held that the Messiah will come from the line of David, which is why the name was treasured and protected across every generation of exile. Kings of Scotland, saints, and the patron of Wales all bore it. The modern state of Israel put his 6-pointed star on its flag. No other name on this list is stitched so directly into the identity of a living nation. And we end with the name that started everything. Adam is Hebrew, Adam, and it means man or earth, from the Hebrew word Adamah, the red soil from which the first human was formed in the book of Genesis. It is, in a very literal sense, the oldest name in the Western tradition, the name given to the first human being in the Hebrew Bible. Unlike every other name on this list, Adam was never translated into something else because there was nothing earlier to translate from. It is the root, Every atom walking the earth today carries a name that means humanity itself, spoken first in Hebrew on the very first page of Scripture. So go back through your own family, your name, your mother's, your father's, your grandparents, your children's. Count how many are on this list: John, Mary, James, Elizabeth, Ann, Michael, Joshua, Joseph, Daniel, David, Adam, and remember that every one of them is a Hebrew name that survived empires, expulsions, translations, and 3,000 years of history to reach you. This is the quiet truth the textbooks skip. The Western world did not just borrow a few Hebrew names, it is built on them. Every time you call a friend named Mike, comfort a child named Hannah, or shake hands with a man named John, you are speaking ancient Hebrew without knowing it. The names outlived the empires that tried to erase the people who first spoke them. That is survival, written into the most ordinary words we have. If you find these stories fascinating, make sure you subscribe to Bloodlines and Borders. Every people has a story they were never told, and we tell them here every single week. And tell us in the comments, which name in your family is on this list? Is your own name Hebrew and you never knew it? Some of the best videos on this channel come straight from your stories. The empires are gone, the names remain. Thank you for watching. If you want to go deeper, the next video on your screen is one you won't want to miss. I'll see you there.